Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Final Fantasy VII Remake playthrough. We are finally entering the Shinra building, and my god, the scale of this place is so much more intimidating in the remake. um, like, it's freaking huge.
It actually feels like a Shinra HQ.
Trailer shot.
It feels like a building that should be more than 70 floors high, to be honest.
I recognize this. This is the cover to Final Fantasy IV.
I just want to say it's also a recreation of a shot in the OG game too.
Yeah, where Cloud is holding his sword at his back in little Lego model form as they look.
Because
up
for some reason it's outdoor in that cutscene. I have no idea why it was framed that way.
Yeah, but it's very clearly trying to mimic the original game's box art, though.
Oh yeah, no doubt.
This is a lost cause.
It's interesting that that's the case because it wasn't the original game's box art in Japan. That's just the American box art. In Japan, the box art for the Final Fantasy games is the most boring shit ever. It's just the logo and the Yoshitaka Amano stuff.
I mean,
that's it.
There's a certain iconic nature to it. Like, for example, it's kind of similar to the Ace Attorney box art, where the original game in the West has like a much more dynamic picture, where it's like a courtroom and Edgeworth's face is huge and whatnot. But the Japanese style, where it's just like four anime people standing next to each other, like, is certainly more iconic, and it makes you know, okay, this. Well,
yeah, but that's at least something. Like, in Final Fantasy box art in Japan, it's typically just a white background with the logo, and the only thing that the logo brings to the table is the illustration by Yoshitaka Amano that sits behind the logo, which is always there on every cover anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure they also used that specific image as like key art for a lot of Japanese advertisements and stuff like that. So I'm sure it's also recognizable to that audience.
Well, yeah, people in Japan generally know who Amano is, but
oh no, I'm talking about the Western art. Like, I think that like the Japanese audience probably recognizes that.
Oh yeah, the shot with Cloud with Cloud looking up at Shinra HQ is his particular character key art. Like, Tifa has her sitting on the well, or Barrett has him standing in the church with Marlene on his shoulder, which is a scene that never happens in the game. So I'm not really sure why that's his key art. But apart from that, there's the one with Vincent crouched like a gargoyle on the side of a building, all broody like. That's a thing.
Well, Vincent and having fun are like two things that don't go together.
The key art for Aerith was always a bit tragic because it's her looking up at the airship. Because there's a scene where you see the airship for the first time on the way through Junin, and she talks about wanting to go on a flight on that airship, but she dies before you get a chance to.
I forgot how early in the game she dies. Like, she dies before you get the airship, or really before you get a lot of stuff, really.
Yeah, like, you gain access to a lot of the world map because you get the tiny Bronco at that point, but other than that,
the game doesn't really open up, though. Like, you're not given free reign to just explore and do side quests until after Aerith dies, because
it opens up enough. Like, you can go back to the other continents.
The typical, like, not, it doesn't like open up freely like many RPGs do at their halfway point.
Well, like, you can do the Wutai stuff. You can go back to the Golden Saucer and do stuff over there. You can go back to the first continent and explore the other cities, but it doesn't open up quite as much as it did with the airship. No. Oh boy.
Man, your timing's good. For once, I want someone to do that in like a movie or something, instead they just miss the truck and just splat on the ground. It's like crap.
No one ever looks up. Why?
That is a thing.
Well, I mean,
when was the last time you looked at the ceiling, though?
I mean, they do have these stupid goggles on their heads that would completely destroy their peripheral vision.
Can't see a thing in these helmets, or however the Star Wars reference, however that line goes.
Yeah, that's pretty much how that line goes. Of course, inexplicably, for this part of the game, Barrett becomes a bit of a bumbling idiot. So
Yeah, it's a bit weird.
it's like they remembered, like, really late into the game that Barrett had a lot of comedy value in the original game, and they started cramming comedy moments with Barrett into the Shinra Tower. It's a little awkward.
I mean, that's where, like, I think Barrett's most, like, overt comedy moments really started to happen. Because I brought this up.
I mean, I still say the Sailor Suit is his most overt comedy moment.
Oh, yes, that I forgot about that. That's true. But, like, I mentioned this earlier in the playthrough, but after the Shinra section, Barrett's character doesn't really get to do much. Because Barrett mostly exists to be exposition and to be an emotional core for Midgar and, like, the people's troubles there. Like, obviously he contributes to the plot in other ways, but that's, like, his main purpose. Once you leave Midgar, he mostly is relegated to comedy relief. And now that we're at the climax of the game, or at least this section of the game, which is climbing the tower, his development is mostly done. So I guess they just jumped onto him being a comedy punching bag wagon early, I suppose. Like, I would have maybe tried to save some of that for later. I don't know. I'm actually personally hoping, since they are just going to change stuff in the later sections, that they give him more to do. Because
Still gotta keep the Sailor Suit, though.
If they don't have that in the game, then I'm going to personally walk into Nomura's office and ask him why he didn't do that. Just very politely, ask him, hey, I like that scene. You should have put it in the game. But yeah, like, give Barrett something to do so he's not just, like, sitting there twiddling his singular thumb for the rest of the game.
Anyway, on the subject of characters with stuff to do, one of the things that they seem to have made a conscious effort of doing during the Shinra Tower, ironically, is making sure that everyone gets their moments.
That is also important, especially in a game like this.
Well, it's more dynamic than it was in the original game because the Shinra Tower goes on a lot longer. So, like, Barrett and Aerith team up against the 100 gunner down below. Tifa gets her, like, jumping around the ceiling, doing hand over hand to get to the key card moment early on, and then she has a really cool rescue moment where she saves Cloud from falling off the building.
During that slow-mo, it looked like Cloud was doing the smooth criminal lean.
So, like, and like, parts of the original game where characters did things but it didn't really matter end up becoming more important here. Like, I just mentioned Tifa gets to rescue Cloud in a really cool moment later on. In the original game, she stayed behind because she was worried about Cloud, but it really only amounted to an excuse to get her out of Barrett's party so that Barrett's party was down to 3 members, because you could only fit that many in a party. In this game, in this version of events, her staying behind to watch out for Cloud ends up being really important because he almost falls to his death. So, yeah.
How does this game handle that, by the way? Do you ever get a point where you can choose, okay, I want my party to be Barrett, Cloud, and Aerith? Or,
No.
Post
In
game.
the very end game dungeon where you're in Hojo's laboratory, there is a point where you have control over who's in your party. But other than that, can't think of anything now. Like, okay. for the final boss, who's in your party is entirely dependent on your affection values.
Which is why it's usually Aerith and Tifa who is in the party with you.
It's usually Aerith and then Tifa, or Tifa and then Aerith.
Barrett gets to hang out with Red 13.
Yeah, it's. I know it's always awkward when you have 4 party members in a 3-party system kind of game. Because it's just like there's only one character that's...
Sorry, but Cloud just looks over to Barrett. You're being a 4th wheel, dude.
You're supposed to have 4 wheels, Cloud. What do you think we're riding, a tricycle?
I mean, the wagon we were in has 3 wheels, so.
Kind of did.
Fine,
yeah.
I'll stay with the dog.
Oh, man. Yeah, like, I understand it for this game. There are some other games, though, where it just doesn't really make sense. Like, the first one I can think of is Dragon Quest VII. There's 5 party members in that game, but you can only have 4 people in your party at any given time. It's like, why have 5 characters, then? Why can't Maribel just stay at home for forever? Please and thank you. I don't want her in my party anymore. I'm struggling to think of many other examples, but I'm sure there are other games where it pops up.
Dragon Quest VIII doesn't have very many characters.
No, you have 4 for the entire game. In the PS2 version. The 3DS version adds 2 extra playable characters. So, like, for a little bit, it's kind of awkward, but then when you unlock both of them, it's kind of fine. But in the original version, you just had 1 party, and that was it. So, like, if you only have 1 party for me, then that's fine. If you have a bunch of characters that you can switch between, that's also fine. It's like, you have 6 people in battle total at any given time. You have 7 total party members. What's the point? Why would you make your game like that?
Yeah, one thing that I always appreciated in Final Fantasy X was just having all of your party members at your fingertips at any given time. I really wish more games had done that.
I always like that about Paper Mario as well, in that you can just swap your party in and out at any given time.
Well, yeah, but your party in Paper Mario was just Mario and whoever he was wielding as his persona at the time.
Listen, all right? Bo has a fan and can smack people with the fan. That's cool. All right. But yeah, I always like games where they let you swap your party members mid-battle. You know, just it adds a little bit of extra spice to things. And you also don't feel like you're completely cheated if you run into a random battle. Oh no, this enemy's only weak to ice. I don't have any of my party members with me that have the ice attack. Guess I suck at this fight now. You can, like, just take a turn and swap someone. I always like it when the game gives you that kind of option.
God, the soldier third classes are actually, like, really good at fighting. I'm surprised.
Well, I'd hope so, considering they're soldiers.
I mean, lore-wise, I shouldn't be surprised, but they were kind of pushovers in the original game. So,
Is third class higher
The
than
lowest
first
one.
class or lower than first class?
It's third, then second, then first.
Okay. So this is the first time we're really fighting other soldiers in the game, then.
yes.
In this game.
Well,
yes.
apart
In this
from
game.
that other guy.
Oh yeah, the guy who
Who's new to
wanted
this
to
game,
make
yes.
out with Cloud. Yeah.
And with his own motorcycle. Don't forget that part.
Oh yeah, that too.
Take the escalator. No, stop and forget. Stop and
Yeah, I was gonna say, what if you put take the escalator if you're just gonna walk up the stairs anyway? I guess you want to get there
And
faster.
the original recording of this part that didn't have any audio for some reason, I did actually stand and wait for the escalator to carry me up. But by this point, I was too impatient. I had to fight the Valkyrie twice. I'm sorry.
Okay, so the slidey doors just made me remember something, and I need to ask you all, just because I need some validation here.
Do you do the force
Oh,
thing?
Yeah,
I
the
think I
force
know
thing.
exactly
Yeah, do
where
you
you're
guys
going.
do it?
Yeah, the force thing. Force thing and
No,
Magneto.
but when I was a kid, I used to say "Open Sesame" under my breath every time.
All right, okay. I'm glad. Okay, I feel validated. Thank you.
I think everybody does
It's
that.
the
at some
simple
point or
things
another,
in
yeah.
life, you know.
Yeah. By the way, this track playing right now, the Shinra HQ lobby, is magnificent.
Is it
Okay,
a
this
remake
entire-
from the original, or?
No, it's a completely
Oh,
new
okay.
thing.
Also, considering what you're
Yeah.
doing here with Tifa, it gives me massive Mirror's Edge vibes.
Does kinda, yeah.
Yeah.
Obviously,
Only
obviously not
everything's
as
in color.
fast, but
Yeah. And it's in the third person.
So I really, really like the way they handled Shinra Tower. There's a lot of detail in this place. And some of the weirder aspects of the original Shinra Tower got sort of recontextualized to make some sense. We still don't have the weird vending machine maze, though.
About you, but
Rest in
I don't think
peace.
we should try touching it.
we can't possibly get in there. But we can jump 20 feet in the air, Barrett. We can't just get in there.
I mean, yeah, going by how the Valkyrie boss battle was going, like Tifa should be able
Tifa
to
jumped 30 feet into the air with no problem.
Tifa should be able to just flip jump onto the top and then drop right in. But no, now that we're in regular gameplay mode, she has to like jump around.
Parkour
She has
her
to
way up
parkour
there.
across
Yeah.
chandeliers. Yeah,
We're not taking the elevator.
we're not
Barrett.
taking the elevator. No.
No one takes the elevator.
The dialogue for the stairs was legitimately like one of the best parts of the original Final Fantasy VII.
Yeah, they did have to change some stuff though in this.
Oh,
for,
yeah,
for
no,
obvious
the-
reasons.
Some of the like Tifa's line, like it's so out of character for her.
I
It's-
like that line.
I
though.
mean, if it were just like stop being a dumbass and keep climbing, then yes, it would have been.
It's
perfect.
like
Yeah.
for that
But
entire
it's-
section, she was possessed by the time traveling spirit of Machina Bridge Tifa.
Yeah, it's just like you don't use that word anymore, and it's like
yeah, it's the only time in the game she drops
yeah.
it. Like,
It's also
which is why I think it's so off.
yeah, but if it were just something like stop being a moron, it would still be just as funny, you know? Like it's funnier that she's just done with Barrett's crap, you know, really.
It's one of those. It was acceptable at the time, not so much anymore. So
Yeah, I mean it was 1997.
I'll tell you
so-
why.
yeah.
I'll tell you why stuff like that happens in translations is that, like, especially back in the day when the translation process was itself a lot rougher, they what they would have been doing was they would be having different people translating different parts of the game, which is why certain parts of the game are badly translated and others are translated really well. Nowadays we'd have like an editor who's in charge and who would make things feel unified because the process is smoothed out enough and they realize that's something that they need. But
Yeah, I mean you can't have one person translating a game like this.
it's
know,
so
'cause
lucky that she landed on a cushion.
I thought I was
yeah,
for sure.
man, it's a good thing they replaced
Also,
her.
she can jump 30 feet in the air. I felt like that wouldn't hurt her.
She didn't land on her feet though. She didn't land on her ass. Thankfully, these conveniently placed cushions are there to break the fall.
Are you talking about the? Never mind.
I
Anyway,
knew exactly what
where's
you were
that
going
going?
for. So
anyway, there are 2 treasure chests to find in this area. The first is 2,000 gil, always handy. But the second one, which is a bit more out of the way, contains the purple pain, which is a really good weapon for Tifa because it is her critical hit rate weapon, which is really good for Tifa because her rate of attack is really fast. One of the things that I always wind up emphasizing with characters who have a high rate of attack is their critical hits. In this case, that would be Barrett and Tifa, because Barrett is firing off small attacks over and over and over again, and Tifa is punching and kicking really quick.
Do critical hits in this game like pierce defense? Or
I don't
anything
know.
Like that?
I don't know. I know that they do more damage, and I know that there are weapon upgrades that can increase the amount of damage they do, which is something that the critical hit weapon always has. So,
Because it depends on the game. Because like Dragon Quest critical hits pierce defense. Pokemon, I believe critical hits. I believe they ignore stat buffs. If I
yes, I believe so.
like if you use if you like lower your attack but then you get a crit, I believe that your attack will be considered normal. Oh yeah, that definitely is the case, I remember, because Gen 1 is a well-programmed game.
Trademark.
There's no purpose in using Swords Dance if you have Slash as your attack, because Slash basically guarantees the critical hit in Gen 1, and ignoring stat changes includes ignoring your own stat buffs. So you will do less damage if you get a critical hit and you've used Swords Dance than if you were to just have landed a normal hit sometimes.
Purple pain, purple pain. Oh, that's
Purple Pain also has concentration activation 70%, which gives you a 70% chance of starting the battle at your second level of unbridled strength instead of.
Although, like, only thing I can think of when I hear that song, John, is the cosplay Purple Ranger.
cosplay one.
Okay, so it's a Power Ranger suit, but it's
Right.
purple, and on top of the helmet it has the Prince hair.
Really?
instead
Oh
of
my
like
God, really? And does it play Purple Rain in the
yeah,
background?
he has like the guitar and stuff.
I'm imagining
Oh my
him
God.
playing
Hold on,
the
I'm gonna look for
stupid
it.
flute that the Green Ranger had, but instead of like
Oh, he does have that.
He
yes.
does have that?
The
Oh,
one
man,
time
that's
the one
great.
time I saw him at Dragon Con. So
Yeah,
one,
it's just a glorified MP3 player that plays
yeah,
Purple Rain.
one sec. I'm gonna look for it on Google.
Okay, sure.
So, but is it spelled purple RAIN-ger or purple RAN-ger?
Purple Ranger. Okay. I hope it's the former.
You obtained a pair of purple
Also-
paint.
Yeah, I dig the not Mission Impossible music that plays though once you start parkour.
Oh yeah, once you get up to the top, the music kicks into high gear, and she's like, hand over hand,
Yeah.
bring it on. Despite the fact that you've already done some of that
All
to
right,
get the.
I have put it in the Discord.
Yeah.
Okay, so this section is like, there's no way to lose, but it is kind of a cool moment.
Bring it on.
Like
I was never good at monkey bars.
Oh, yo, same. I have terrible hand-eye coordination.
it's emphasized. It's emphasized at this point in the game that Tifa is like the most physically trained of the party members. Like,
The most naturally trained, I also should stress, because Cloud is athletic, but he also has Mako
yeah,
juice.
and Barrett is
Genova
Barrett
cells.
is bulky, but having bulky muscles is a drawback in itself when it comes to certain
Yeah,
physical
I
activity.
wouldn't call Barrett athletic.
Like he's tough, but he's also heavy, and that would make stuff like Tifa's getting up to right now substantially harder for him to maintain over time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Tifa trying to knock someone else down would be a lot harder than for Barrett would.
Even discounting the fact that Barrett's weight might count against him when climbing around on monkey bars or jumping around on chandeliers. If he were
Because
trying
all
to
of the muscle you build is muscle you then have to carry when you're doing stuff like this. So being heavier is a detriment. in that
not
way.
just muscle that you have to carry, it's also muscle that consumes more oxygen. So if you're bulky, your stamina is going to suffer for that.
That's partially why Barrett's the first to tire out on the stairs.
Yeah. When you're on the stairs, Tifa is always like 2 floors ahead of you, and you never see.
She's also the only one not carrying around big metal items to wield as weapons.
Yeah. So Cloud winds up landing squarely in the middle as far as that goes. But we'll get to the stair climbing scene because boy did they do that justice.
Oh my God, yeah, they did.
Do they?
They
I
did it-
assume
they
that
did it
nobody has
perfectly.
ever chosen doing the elevator in their life.
Well, no, people have because they get footage for it, but
Yeah, and I've done both. It's just that, but the stairs are the stairs. Like I think it's law that you have to do the stairs part
What's
first.
the benefit to doing the elevator?
there isn't.
There isn't? Okay.
Well, you get encounters. If you want more experience, basically, you do the elevators because you have fixed encounters during the elevator ride.
I also like this Tifa section for another reason, though, and it's because in the original game, the Shinra lobby, it was a very potentially iconic-looking area to run around in, but there wasn't really a lot of reason to spend any time there.
No, you get to hang around a few places. You also get like this really bizarre FMV of like them showcasing one of their motorcycles or their cars,
Yeah.
which I didn't know was there for the longest time.
Yeah, like it's an area that could pass you by, oddly enough, and
Yeah.
putting this Tifa section here sort of forces the player to stop and smell the roses for this very iconic area of Shinra Tower that everyone sort of missed their first time through. It's also important that they do that because, like, in the original game, the truck and the motorcycle were there.
Professor HugoJunstrand.
That's where Cloud and the gang get their vehicles for the motorcycle chase sequence, but a lot of people just blazed through the room and didn't realize that stuff was there, so they wondered where the hell the vehicles came from.
Did they have the motorcycle chase in this game?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, they do.
Yes.
Okay.
They
Does it control any better?
Yes.
Okay.
We did an easier version of the motorcycle chase earlier in the game before fighting the other soldier
Oh
guy.
yeah, you're right. You mentioned. Okay, yeah.
But the real motorcycle chase is still here, and the motorball boss is actually a boss fight you fight on the motorcycle rather than being a regular boss fight, which is good.
Then awkwardly at the end of the highway.
Which is good because, like, at the end of the highway is the final boss, and motorball would have just been an awkward segue otherwise. But yeah, the Shinra car dealership, apparently, is in here. We've got like exhibits for all the different vehicles in the game, which is cool because we didn't get to see like up close and personal many of the vehicles in the Final Fantasy VII universe, even though they did
No.
have an established.
There
look for
there
them.
were displays, but again, it was such a bite-sized area.
And so it's cool that we get to like see more of that. The most awkward thing about Shinra Tower is the way your party members just don't know where the chairs are. Their pathfinding leads them directly into every chair in their path. They're knocking them down every 20 seconds. You'd think security would have gotten on your case for disturbing the peace by that point.